Number 10 Water Filter Horror Show. On March 27, 2021, a young boy named Leonardo Luna Guerrero was killed in a tragic swimming accident. It happened at the Zenzi's water park in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. Leonardo was at the park with his parents. It was supposed to be a fun family day full of memories, but that dramatically changed when the boy was sucked into the water filter system at the Rapid River ride. One of the employees had forgotten to close it, so when little Leonardo swam by, there was no metal grill over the filter and it just inhaled him like a giant vacuum. After the horrifying swimming accident, the boy's father, who happens to be a respected doctor, took to social media to accuse the park of negligence. He told the public about how he had to free his son from the water filter with the help of other visitors because the force of the suction was too powerful for him to do it on his own. After he got his son out of the water, he performed CPR, but Leonardo had been underwater too long and there was no bringing him back to life. His father also complained that the park staff had no idea how to perform first aid. They left the dangerous grill open and the lifeguards didn't even have the proper knowledge to help any drowning victims. Even worse is the fact that after this man's son died from a pulmonary hemorrhage brought on by the drowning, the hospital forced him to sign an indemnity form, a form designed to protect the park from any legal action. It was the only way the hospital would agree to give his son's body back. Number 9 Septic Tank. Recently in May 2022 in Northport, Florida, a 74-year-old woman died when she fell into her own septic tank. According to Public Information Officer Josh Taylor, the woman was last seen the evening of Monday, May 9th around 6 p.m. The next morning, the woman's daughter called her mother to check on her, but when she didn't answer, she decided to phone the local police to do a wellness check. Upon arrival, the deputies found a woman's body floating in a septic tank. A septic tank is an underground chamber made of concrete, fiberglass, or plastic through which wastewater flows for basic sewage treatment. Public Information Officer Josh Taylor said, quote, "It's not 100% clear on whether the lid to the septic tank had caved in previously and there was a hole and she fell into the hole, or if it was weak and just her stepping onto it caused it to completely give out where she fell in. It appeared to be completely freakish type incident that you would never think would happen." End quote. According to police, a septic company went to the house about a year ago and told the woman she needed to replace the tank, due to lids on septic tanks often deteriorating over the years. The woman never did get the tank replaced. In the state of Florida alone, there's about 2.4 million septic systems, and it's recommended that residents have their septic tanks serviced every 3 to 5 years. Number 8 Death Jacket. It's a very rare occurrence when the very thing that's supposed to save you ends up killing you instead. In October 2021, a UK teenager drowned during a horrific boating accident in which her automatic life jacket prevented her from escaping a capsized boat. 17-year-old Gillian Davy was on a pleasure cruise with her family off the Cornish coast when their pontoon boat, the Norma G, was suddenly hit by a large wave near the notoriously treacherous Doombar sandbank. Upon realizing their dangerous predicament, Gillian and her mother donned their personal flotation device, which automatically inflated when the cabin started filling with water. And while Gillian's mother removed her life vest and swam out of the cabin window to safety, Gillian kept hers on and as a result became trapped in the submerged room. Meanwhile, Gillian's father, who was steering the ship, and his son had been tossed overboard when the wave hit. The 3 family members were rescued by a passing harbor patrol boat. Gillian's father had tried several times to reach down and rescue his daughter, but was unable to do so due to rough waters and the fact that the vessel had inverted and was sunk by the heavy stern. Eventually, a lifeboat arrived and managed to hoist the sinking pontoon out of the water so that Gillian's dad could pull open the door and get his daughter out. However, by that point, Gillian was unconscious and had no pulse. The teen was rushed to the hospital, where she was pronounced dead. Number 7 Pool Cover. In 2019, 14-year-old Nabila Mazzouz drowned under a pool cover while she and her teammates were putting covers on the pool at the end of swim practice at a leisure center in Hillsboro, Oregon. The youngsters took a piece of cover for one end of the pool, then swam back underneath it to fetch another piece to place on top. Coaches had instructed the group of swimmers to cover the facility's indoor pool with the heavy covers that create suction when rolled on top of water. At that point, Nabila and a few of her fellow swimmers then grabbed a second cover and swam it over to the deep end, leaving it next to the first cover. It was after the second piece had been placed that Nabila started struggling, but her teammates and coach didn't notice that she was missing. Nabila's mother, Patty, was waiting in her car outside the facility for the practice to finish, and when she saw the other team members and coach come out without her daughter, she suddenly had a terrible feeling in the pit of her stomach. Nabila's body was found in the deep end of the pool 25 minutes after the practice had ended. Her family is now filing a $70 million wrongful death lawsuit. Number 6 Snakes in the Waterfall. In September of 2020, a Brazilian doctor named Dien Salgo was swimming at the bottom of Serra Azul waterfall in the state of Sao Paulo, a popular tourist destination, when suddenly a venomous snake came out of nowhere and hit her in the head. The serpent had fallen down the waterfall and landed right on top of her. She screamed in pain, then desperately swam away from the waterfall as the venom from the snake shot through her veins. It bit her twice on the arm in its awkward and probably very panicked journey down the falls. The snake was identified as Bothrops jararaca. It's an extremely dangerous species with such potent venom that it can easily kill a person within minutes. The venom causes swelling wherever the person is bitten, followed by necrosis, blistering, and then some very uncomfortable bleeding from the skin, gums, and nose. These symptoms can often lead to death by shock and renal failure. Deanne was lucky that she made it to the hospital so quickly, as she was given an antidote to the snake venom and put in emergency surgery. By the time she reached the hospital, 70% of her airways had already been compromised. But thankfully, Newsweek reported that she was put in the ICU in stable condition and was expected to make a full recovery. Have you ever swam at a waterfall? Tell us about it in the comments below and hit that subscribe button while you're at it. Number 5. Nuclear plant intake pipe. A scuba diver named Christopher Lacan was accidentally sucked into a nuclear power plant intake pipe. Christopher had no idea that while he was scuba diving off the coast of Florida, he was so close to the massive pipe from the St. Lucie power plant. The power plant pulls in about 500,000 gallons of ocean water every minute through that intake pipe, and anything that gets sucked in there is basically gone, even a person. It was one of the most horrifying situations Christopher had ever been in. It was so turbulent inside the intake pipe that it took him over a minute just to figure out which way was up and which way was down. He hung on to his diving mask because the force of the suction was trying to suck it off his face. Christopher then spent the next 5 minutes tumbling through pure darkness as he traveled up the quarter-of-a-mile-long pipe. Then, just as quickly as the nightmare started, it was over. The pipe spat him out into a canal which was just a pond inside the actual nuclear power plant. He touched down in a filter pool filled with fish. He saw many different kinds of sea life that had been slurped in with him. He also saw a worker standing over him, totally confused. Christopher was extremely lucky, as the nuclear power plant employee said he and his colleagues were about to leave for the night. If it had been 5 minutes later, the whole place would have been empty and Christopher would have been stuck inside until the next morning. Number 4. Saving the dog. In December 2018, a Michigan woman and an Indiana man died within 2 days of each other after both attempted to save their dogs who ran out on frozen ponds. 38-year-old mother of 3, Tracy Cashman, took her golden doodle Lola for a walk at a nearby park, and about a half hour later, Lola returned home without her owner. Quote, "She came back without a leash and no Tracy," said Rhonda Moore, Tracy's mother, as she told WWMT. "It was a quick trip. She wore a light jacket and didn't take her phone. She must have let the dog off her leash and the dog ran out in the back pond on the ice." Knowing that Tracy often took Lola for walks in Batches Park, her family immediately went searching in that area. When they couldn't find her, they called police, and within hours, emergency crews discovered Tracy's body covered with ice in the park pond. Rescuers immediately performed a cold water rescue, but it was too late to save her. Less than 48 hours after Tracy's unexpected death, tragedy struck again, this time in Indiana. An unidentified man in his 20s was walking one of his huskies around an apartment pond when the dog took off on the icy sheet. A nearby witness, Scott Filchak, attempted to intervene after he noticed the young man struggling to save his dog. He slid onto the ice, but it started to crack beneath his weight. When Filchak realized he was unable to save the man on his own, he called over Maroon Balk, who was walking his own dog nearby. The two men desperately tried to help. Both men reportedly fell into the frigid waters in their brave attempts at rescuing the man. They were able to get out, but were unsuccessful in getting the young man out, and they called 911. A team of divers found the man approximately 30 feet or just about 9 meters from the shore. He was taken to the hospital, but was later pronounced dead. Filchak and Bach were also seen by doctors at that hospital as a precautionary measure from falling into the icy waters. Both men were okay, and both dogs survived. Number 3. Attack in the Dam. In the summer of 2020 in India, 30-year-old Amit Jatav found himself being dragged underwater by a crocodile. He would have been a delicious snack for the monstrous reptile had it not been for his quick-thinking friend, who managed to beat the crocodile off with a selfie stick. The horrifying incident happened at the Kalyasat Dam in Bhopal. Amit and his buddy were bored during the pandemic lockdown and decided to go to the lake. They were splashing and playing in the shallow water of the dam and recording themselves with a selfie stick. Then, from out of nowhere, a massive crocodile sunk its teeth into Amit's thigh and dragged him under the water. Fortunately for Amit, his friend Gajendra came to his rescue. He dove into the water after the beast, who at this point had pulled Amit about 6 feet or just under 2 meters deep. Gajendra held the selfie stick like a spear in front of him and poked the sharp part of the stick against the croc, and the pressure was just enough for it to release its deadly grip on Amit. Amit's thigh was ripped apart pretty badly by the crocodile's teeth. A huge chunk of his thigh had been ripped right out, and he needed to have 30 stitches. But it could have been a lot worse. Number 2, Iron Man can't swim. In Ontario, Canada, in August 2021, a 47-year-old man drowned during the Ironman 70.3 Calgary Triathlon. It is an extremely dramatic race to see who's the best. The triathlon involves swimming, running, and cycling, but this Canadian sporting event turned into a nightmare when a competitor lost his life during the swimming portion of the race. The local police were alerted at around 8 o'clock in the morning that a man had drowned. It turned out he wasn't quite ready to be the ultimate Canadian Ironman. The swimming course was about 1.2 miles or just under 2 kilometers. Sometime during the swim, the unidentified victim was seen struggling in the water. It seemed that he had suffered some kind of heart failure. Volunteers quickly rushed into the lake and pulled him out, but by the time paramedics were ready to take him to the hospital, he was already dead. An eyewitness whose husband was also participating in the race said that sometimes these things happen since the athletes push their bodies past their limit. Number 1, the deadly penguin dive. Spencer Brown finished his course in cybersecurity in 2021, but due to the pandemic that was going on, New York University wasn't holding any public graduations. So, to celebrate his finished studies, his wife decided to throw a big pool party at her parents' house in Alpine. The party took place on July 29, 2021. There were about 50 people barbecuing, swimming, and just having a good time. Everyone was enjoying themselves, and Spencer most of all, because not only was he finished with school, he also found out his wife was expecting their 3rd child. But the day soon turned into a nightmare. Spencer was on the diving board about to do the penguin dive, which he had done many times before. He jumped off the diving board, hit the water, and his head smashed against the concrete at the shallow end of the pool. His neck and spine absorbed the impact. His friends and family pulled him out of the water as a quadriplegic. Nowadays, he has very little sensation below his neck. He can't tell if he's hungry or if something is too hot or too cold. According to his doctor at the University of Utah, Spencer has central cord syndrome. His arms and hands are weaker than his legs, and he has spastic, involuntary muscle movements. It's unclear if he will ever be able to walk on his own again. He's currently stuck in a wheelchair, all because of a bad dive off the diving board. Thanks for watching. Would you rather get sucked into a nuclear power plant intake pipe and live, or be attacked by a crocodile? Tell us what you think will be more traumatic in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time on The Bad Badger.